Are you tired of spending hours and hours studying, only to feel like you draw a total blank when it really counts? Well, in this explainer, we are going to break down a method, backed by science, that will completely flip how you learn and remember things. Let's dive right in.
We've all been there, right? You get out the highlighters, you reread the chapter 3 times, you feel like you've really got it. But then, when you need to pull that information out for a test or a meeting, poof, it's just gone. But here's the good news. That's not a you problem. It's a technique problem, and we can fix it.
And this right here is the heart of the issue. On one side, you have passive reading. It feels good, it's comfortable, it's easy. It creates something called the illusion of familiarity. You recognize the words, but you can't actually recall the ideas. On the other side, you have active recall. And yeah, it feels hard. It's an effort. But that struggle, that's what actually builds strong, lasting memories.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack why your old habits are letting you down. Then we'll jump into the powerful alternative. I'll give you a whole toolkit of techniques you can use, we'll map out a plan to put them into practice, and finally, we'll talk about how you'll know it's actually working.
Okay, first up, let's just tear down the biggest myth in all of studying. The idea that just rereading something over and over is doing you any good.
You see, what's happening is your brain is taking a clever little shortcut. When you reread a text, it gets easier each time, and you mistake that ease for understanding. But all you're doing is getting better at recognizing what's on the page, not at pulling the concepts out of your own head cold.
This analogy just nails it, doesn't it? Looking at the landscape makes you feel confident, but the real test, the only one that matters, is can you draw the map from memory? Can you recreate that knowledge on your own? Passive reading fails that test pretty much every single time. So how do we start drawing that map?
So if passive reading is the enemy, what's the solution? Well, let's get into the revolution. It's called active recall. This is the single most important mind shift you can make. Learning isn't about passively absorbing stuff. Real deep learning happens when you force your brain to pull that information out from scratch. So instead of rereading a chapter, you close the book and try to explain the main points out loud. That's the mental heavy lifting that actually works.
And there's real science here. Every single time you struggle and strain to remember a fact, you're sending a powerful signal to your brain that says, hey, this is important, keep this. That effort strengthens the connections between your neurons. Think of it like a workout. If it's too easy, you're not building muscle. Your brain needs that challenge, that desirable difficulty, to grow stronger.
Okay, theory is great, but let's get into the how. Here are 4 super practical techniques you can start using today. This is your brand new active learning toolkit. First up is the blurting method. This is your reality check. It's a raw, unfiltered brain dump designed to show you, with brutal honesty, the gap between what you think you know and what you can actually remember.
Here is exactly how you do it. Let's say you just finished a chapter. Close the book, close the laptop, no peeking, set a timer for, say, 7 or 8 minutes. Grab a blank piece of paper and just write everything you can remember. Keywords, concepts, diagrams, connections, get it all out. Then, when the timer goes off, open the book back up and compare. Everything you missed? That's gold. That's your study guide telling you exactly where the gaps are.
All right, tool number 2 is the Feynman technique. The whole idea here is simple. If you can't explain something simply, you don't really understand it. This method forces you to prove you've mastered a concept.
So, pick one concept, just one. Now, try to explain it out loud like you're talking to a 10-year-old. The instant you get stuck, or you have to use complicated jargon, or it just feels messy, bam, that's a gap in your knowledge. So you go back to your notes, you figure out that weak spot, and you try again. The goal is to get it so clear and so simple that anyone could understand it.
Our third tool is called SQ3R. This is a complete system for attacking those dense textbooks or technical articles. Instead of just reading from page 1 to the end, this method turns you into an active investigator.
So it breaks down like this. First, survey. Just skim the chapter. Look at headings, pictures, summaries, get the big picture. Second, question. Turn every single heading into a question. So the causes of the Cold War becomes, what were the main causes of the Cold War? Third, read. Now you're not just reading, you're hunting for the answers to your questions. Fourth, recite. After you finish a section, close the book and try to answer your question from memory. And finally, 5, review. The next day, take 5 minutes to quickly go over your notes. It makes a huge difference.
Okay, so you've got these awesome new tools, but a toolbox is kind of useless if you don't know when and how to use them. So let's build a really practical game plan to ease these new habits into your routine.
We're going to start small, okay? For the first couple of weeks, just do this one thing. Every time you finish reading a section, close the book and write down a quick one-paragraph summary from memory. That's it. Then, weeks 3 and 4, let's step it up. Cut your rereading time in half and fill that time with the blurting method or the Feynman technique. And then, after a month, you make the full switch. You start every study session by trying to recall what you already know before you even open the book.
See, the whole goal here is to change your default setting. Passive reading has a place, but only for the very first time you ever see new information. After that, every time you study, it should be an act of pulling information out, not just passively putting it in.
So how do you know all this effort is actually paying off? Let's talk about how to track your progress and what success really looks and feels like.
So how do you find that desirable difficulty we talked about? Well, believe it or not, research points to a sweet spot. When you're testing yourself, you want to be getting the answers right somewhere between 46 and 81% of the time. If you're acing everything with over 81%, it's too easy, you're not learning. If you're scoring below 46%, it's probably too hard, and you'll just get discouraged. That range, right in the middle, that's where the magic happens.
But honestly, it's about more than just numbers. You will feel the difference. You'll start to feel more confident. You'll have less anxiety before a big test because you've already proven to yourself that you can recall this stuff. You'll find yourself able to explain things to other people, off the cuff, without your notes. That is what true understanding feels like.
Look, sticking with what's comfortable is easy, but that illusion of knowing is holding you back. This new way, this active recall stuff, yeah, it's a challenge, but it's also the path to real, durable knowledge. So, are you ready to make that switch? Just pick one technique and try it next time you study. It's time to stop rereading and start remembering.